Did you know some creatures can hitch a free ride across entire countries without legs, wings, or even a bus ticket? Picture this. A spider climbs to the top of a blade of grass, throws its butt to the wind, shoots out silk threads like a tiny living kite. And suddenly, whoosh, it's airborne. No pilot's license, no boarding pass, just pure reckless confidence. That's called ballooning. And some spiders have been caught soaring as high as 2 miles in the sky. 2 miles. That's higher than a lot of small planes dare to go. Now, before you start side-eyeing the corners of your room thinking your house spider is plotting a world tour, relax. Most ballooning spiders are babies, little spiderlings. Think of it as their gap year before deciding which dark corner they want to terrify you from. And they're not just floating a few meters. These tiny acrobats have crossed oceans. Scientists once found ballooning spiders landing on ships in the middle of the sea, as if the Pacific Ocean was just a minor puddle to skip over. And here's where it gets wild. They're not simply blown away by the breeze like some lost plastic bag. No, these spiders can sense the Earth's electric fields. Yeah, you heard that right. While we humans are busy arguing over phone chargers, spiders are basically plugging themselves into the planet's static electricity to launch into the air. Their silk threads pick up on these fields, giving them extra lift. That's less wind carried me here, and more Mother Earth herself gave me a push. Now picture thousands of them going airborne at once. Entire meadows of silk glistening in the sun, drifting upward like a strange, silvery snowfall. Historical records describe fields in Australia covered in what looked like blankets of silk after mass ballooning events. Like nature decided to wrap the landscape in cling film. Farmers hated it, poets loved it, and the spiders probably thought, well, that escalated quickly. But here's the catch. Ballooning is risky business. Not every spider makes it. Some get swept straight into water, some freeze at high altitudes, and some just land in someone's soup. Evolution doesn't really care. The gamble is worth it because the survivors get to start fresh in a new home, safe from predators and overcrowding. Think of it as the ultimate random relocation program. And before you get too impressed, keep in mind, ballooning spiders aren't exactly steering. They're more like those friends who hop in a car without asking where it's headed, just happy for the ride. Sometimes it works out great. Other times, hello, Atlantic Ocean. Now, if you're still with me, let's step back and appreciate how utterly bizarre this is. A creature the size of your fingernail figured out how to hitchhike on electricity and wind long before we invented Wi-Fi, kites, or hang gliders. No fancy tech, no safety gear. Just silk threads and pure, let's see what happens energy. So next time you spot a tiny spider crawling up your wall, maybe cut it some slack. That little bugger's cousins are out there casually conquering the skies like budget airlines with zero overhead costs. But let's go even deeper into this world, because spiders aren't just flying freeloaders. They're also expert engineers. Their silk is insanely strong. Ounce for ounce, it's tougher than steel. If humans could mass-produce spider silk, we'd be making bulletproof jackets, suspension bridges, and maybe even airplanes out of it. And yet, spiders are using it as parachutes, zip lines, and occasionally, emergency escape ropes like furry little Batman impersonators. Now, here's a detail most people don't realize. Ballooning doesn't just happen on windy days. In fact, spiders often wait for calm weather, because they're not relying on strong gusts. They extend their legs wide, sense tiny shifts in the air, and then launch when they detect the perfect combo of temperature, humidity, and electric charge. They're basically doing micro-weather forecasting without a degree. Meteorologists, take notes. Another little twist: ballooning isn't limited to the cute little baby spiders. Adults of certain species also do it. In fact, some of the larger ones can send out multiple silk threads that tangle together into a makeshift glider. Let's not forget the role ballooning has played in colonization. After volcanic eruptions or natural disasters, when landscapes are wiped clean, who's often among the first to show up? Ballooning spiders. They don't wait for an invitation. They're nature's squatters, landing on fresh terrain and setting up shop. Scientists studying the aftermath of Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980 found ballooning spiders among the very first organisms to recolonize the barren ash fields. And ballooning isn't new. Fossil evidence suggests spiders have been doing this for millions of years. While dinosaurs were stomping around on land, little spiders were already sky surfing above them, catching the breeze long before pterodactyls thought it was cool. Now let's pause for a second, because it's one thing to say spiders fly, but it's another to realize what that actually means. These creatures are turning silk, something their own bodies produce, into both a lifeline and a launch pad. They don't need wings, feathers, or engines. They just go. And while scientists know the basics, there's still a lot of mystery. For example, how do they decide when it's time to balloon? Is it hunger, instinct, peer pressure from other spiders climbing the same grass stalk? Nobody knows for sure. Here's another fun bit. Spiders have been found ballooning even during thunderstorms. That's right, they're not scared of a little lightning. In fact, the electrical fields created by storm clouds may actually help give them extra lift. Picture a thunderstorm rolling in, lightning cracking across the sky. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, a spider is just floating past like, yeah, this seems fine. And while we're busy freaking out about turbulence on planes, spiders are literally trusting invisible forces to yeet them into the unknown. Bold, reckless, or maybe just really bad at directions. Think about this. Charles Darwin, during his voyage on the HMS Beagle, recorded seeing ballooning spiders landing on the ship even when it was far out at sea. Darwin was baffled. How could something so small manage such an epic journey? The answer? Silk, static, and zero fear of heights. What's even more incredible is how efficient ballooning is. A spider can release just a few silk threads, each thinner than a human hair, and yet those threads catch enough air to lift its entire body. And remember, some spider silk is so fine you'd barely see it without the right light. So in many cases, there could be hundreds floating right above your head, and you'd never even notice. Comforting, right? Humans spend billions building airplanes, rockets, and hot air balloons. Spiders? They literally moonwalk up a twig, stick their butt in the air, and let nature do the rest. Free travel, no passports, no baggage claim. And the best part? No airline snacks that cost more than your rent. Here's a slightly unsettling truth. Sometimes ballooning goes too well. There have been recorded cases where massive ballooning events covered entire towns in silk. In 2015, parts of Australia looked like they'd been covered in ghostly white sheets when millions of spiders ballooned at once. People woke up to find their gardens, cars, and even street signs completely wrapped. Spiders were raining from the sky. And you thought one spider in the shower was bad, but let's balance that with some awe. These ballooning journeys are one of nature's greatest survival strategies. They spread populations far and wide, preventing inbreeding and ensuring species resilience. Without ballooning, spiders would be stuck competing in crowded spaces. Now here's something mind-bending. Studies show that spiders don't just passively float once they're airborne, they can shift their leg positions to alter drag and stability. It's not exactly steering like a pilot, but it's not completely helpless either. More like balancing on a skateboard down a hill. You're still going wherever gravity sends you. But hey, at least you look cool doing it. One more bizarre fact before we wrap this part. Spider ballooning might even influence weather patterns. Okay, not in a spiders control the climate way, but mass ballooning events release so many silk threads into the air that they can interact with particles and moisture. In theory, large-scale spider migrations could have tiny impacts on local cloud formation. So next time it rains, you could technically blame spiders. Now here's a lesser-known twist. Ballooning has actually inspired scientists and engineers in robotics. There's ongoing research into creating tiny lightweight drones or sensors that mimic spider ballooning. Imagine dropping thousands of miniature devices that can float using thin filaments and static electricity, gathering data from the sky the same way spiders scout new territory. Another incredible survival hack. Ballooning allows spiders to escape predators. Birds, ants, and wasps may be everywhere on the ground, but up in the sky. Not many things are looking for airborne spiders. They've basically unlocked the ultimate ghost mode. Of course, the trade-off is accidentally parachuting into a bird's open beak. Nature's sense of humor, I guess. And the scale of their travels? Some ballooning spiders have been found over 300 kilometers from land. That's like leaving Lagos and randomly ending up in Accra just because you lifted your arms in the air. No GPS, no maps, just silk and vibes. Here's something most documentaries leave out. Spiders don't always land gracefully. Sometimes they smack into buildings, crash into water, or get tangled in vegetation. But survival isn't about elegance, it's about persistence. Even if half fail, the other half succeed, which is all nature needs to keep the cycle going. And because you clearly stuck around, let's pull out a curveball. Ballooning might also be linked to spider personality. Yes, they have personalities. Some are bold risk-takers who launch quickly, while others hesitate, testing the air over and over before committing. Scientists call them sitters and rovers. Sitters wait, cautious and reserved. Rovers, they're the ones saying, "Hey, what's the worst that could happen?" Spoiler, sometimes the worst does happen, but their genes spread farther because of it. And here's the kicker. Without ballooning, global ecosystems would look very different. Spiders help regulate insect populations wherever they land. When they balloon into new environments, they're not just relocating, they're providing free pest control. Those mosquitoes you hate? Chances are a ballooning spider somewhere is already working overtime on that problem. And while we're at it, ballooning spiders have shown up in Antarctica. Yep, even that icy wasteland hasn't completely dodged their aerial invasions. They can't survive long there, but the fact they made the trip proves their resilience. Spiders, the original backpackers who don't know how to stay home. So to recap, spiders are tiny adventurers. They use silk that's stronger than steel, electricity they don't pay for, and wind they don't control, to launch themselves into the skies like fearless little daredevils. They've been doing it for millions of years. They'll probably still be doing it long after we're gone, and whether you like them or not, you've got to admit, they've cracked the code on free travel. Anyway, you stuck around this long, which means you're officially cooler than a spider surfing a thunderstorm. Stick around, subscribe, and let's explore together. This is Earthniverse, slowly building a video nature encyclopedia. Stick around, subscribe, and let's explore together.